Welcome to Health Hacks.
Holly, you are a fitness coach, celebrity coach. You are a nutritionist and the best-selling author of multiple books, including your most recent one, The Carb Reset, which I really enjoyed reading. um, do you want to maybe start the conversation with what inspired you to write that book?
Yeah, it's funny. I travel a lot for work.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my business is I have gyms around the world, a lot of the Four Seasons hotels and different hotel brands. And as I travel around the world and I see some very healthy people, healthy populations, especially my time in Japan, I looked at how few people were obese, how long lifespan is, how little
Mm-hmm.
morbidity there is. Yet the main staple of food in Japan was white rice. And in the West, for some reason, we're scared of carbohydrates for some reason. So I took time and I wrote a book several years ago called The World Diet, where I traveled to the 10 healthiest countries in the world and I studied what do they eat? How are they living so long? How are they so healthy? And I realized that they're consuming about 50% more carbohydrates as a percentage of their calories than here in the United States. Yet the US's obesity rates are exponentially higher. And so there was something there, and I wanted to dig deeper. And one day I remember my kids having a hamburger and taking off the bun and thinking that somehow they were being healthier. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, there's a moment, this is a pivotal moment as an educator that I need to create a very simple explanation, argument, case, using as many scientific evidence-based research as I possibly can to show the world that not only are carbohydrates not bad for you, but they really including them as a key staple in your diet is one of the best effective ways of losing weight, keeping weight off, being healthy, and living a long life.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people think that carbs are the biggest enemy, but in fact, carbs are going to make you feel full longer if you eat the right carbs, right?
Right.
There's like that is, I think that's the biggest misconception, especially with people when we speak about carbs. They're actually including, if you take it really down to the fact, they are including fruits and vegetables in as well as of course potatoes, quinoa and whole grains, all of that. But people would be like, "Oh my god, I'm eating no carbs anymore." And that's like, well, you are going to overconsume calories in the end of the day because carbs are the things that make you feel satisfied and full after a meal for the longer run and give you also energy for workouts and throughout the day and for your brain function, of course. Um,
And not only that, but most of the time that people experience weight loss by cutting carbs, and they're cutting out donuts and pastries and potato chips and French fries, while those foods have carbohydrates, those foods are predominantly fats, and they receive over than 50% of their calories from fats. And so those are not carbs per se. They have carbs, and I think that's the confusion often is that people are thinking about really unhealthy, highly calorically dense foods full of saturated fats, fried foods, full of sugars, as carbohydrates, when in fact those aren't the carbs I'm talking about.
exactly. The most calories there comes from the processing, like frying them or doing something that
Exactly.
doing what they do to the carbs. That is what is causing you gaining weight and all of this. When we look at the diets, for example, in Asia, they eat a lot of vegetables together with rice and all kinds of things. Those are all carbs, but they are not overly there. It's not a fried rice in extremely a lot of oils and all of that. It's mostly steamed and then it is a good high quality carb. And what do you think as a fitness coach and nutritionist is like the biggest mistake what people do aside of like that misconception of carbs are the enemies when they're actually not?
I think I use logic. I think people do pretty well with logic. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things I use, whether it be any nutritional advice I ever give or questions people have, is I'll ask them, do you have kids? Do you have kids? Do you have nieces? Do you have friends with kids? And if they say, hey, I'm going to do a low carb diet, I'm going to do a zero carb diet, I'm going to do keto, I'm going to do Atkins, And I'll say, your 9-year-old, do you want them to cut out carbs? Do you think they should stay away from carbs? Are carrots bad for them? Are apples bad for them? He says, of course not. Well, then why do you think they're bad for you? Why are you eliminating them? And
Yeah.
they sort of pause and they reflect and they giggle. And I think that's the first thing, is the kid test.
Yeah.
Anything with nutrition, use the kid test. I'm going to stay away from cooked foods. I'm going to have a raw diet. Would you only tell your kid to eat only raw food? They would, of course not. Well, then why are you doing it? So I think that's the first thing.
Hmm.
The second thing that I say is, well, let's look at the data, right? People who consume greater than 50% of their calories from carbohydrates, and coming from whole carbohydrates like whole grains, legumes, potatoes, fruits, and vegetables, live exponentially longer, have lower mortality, lower morbidity, better indicators of blood lipid profiles. I mean, all of the things, all cause mortalities reduced. And so the science supports having carbohydrates as the majority of the component of your caloric intake. And when you look at people who are living these extremely low carbohydrate diets, you see a direct relationship between heart disease, blood lipid profile incident, or negative impacts on their blood lipid profile, gut health issues, brain function, hormone issues. So the research is pretty much in agreement with each other. And I just let evidence do the talking for me.
And so when we speak about carbs, what carbs are good for you versus what carbs are bad for you?
I never use the term good and bad. I
Mhm.
think all foods, there's room for all foods on a balanced diet. There's nothing sadder than someone having their birthday and not having a piece of their own cake because they're trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
I think there's certain foods that you can have more often than other foods. And so for those, the least processed a carbohydrate is, the better. So potatoes with the skin are actually fantastic.
Yeah.
Great sources of potassium, a low calorie density food. But mashed potatoes, not great. French fries, not as great. You can have them, just it's more of a special occasion and a treat.
Mm-hmm.
Fruits, phenomenal. Fruit juice, not as good, more of a treat, more of a dessert. So the less processed the carbohydrate is, the better. Even with rice, rice good, rice flour, not as good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lentils or chickpeas, great. Chickpea flour, not as good. So try and have carbohydrates in their whole form whenever possible, and combine them with proteins, with healthy fats, different forms of other nutrients to increase the feeling of fullness from your meal.
So is there, like, for example, some people say, okay, but you should stay away from soy because it's not healthy for you, or some people say, okay, in general, no gluten. I can hear out that you're very gluten friendly. You say it's probably it's not a big deal, but I would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, there's no science to support that gluten is bad for you in any way at any point ever. There are some people that have celiac disease, which is an autoimmune thing, which is real. And those people definitely have a significant intolerance, if you will, allergy almost to consuming gluten. And that's a real medical condition. But the other 99% of people who claim to not be able to eat gluten, there's a lot of recent research that has refuted that. The research has never supported it, but now specifically research has just definitively refuted most of that. People who claim they have a gluten sensitivity. And so I like to have people try soy sauce, who claim that if I have bread, I'm going to be sick. And then we go for sushi and they have soy sauce and they're fine. And I remind them that soy sauce is one of the richest forms of gluten, ingredient that they can have. So gluten is not bad for you. Gluten is just a protein. It's not a toxin. It's most of the world consumes gluten with no problem. I think when it comes to soy, you're asking, the countries who live the longest with the lowest incidence of heart disease, cancer, diabetes are the highest consumers of soy in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
There was some really a couple of bad media hits in the 90s about a study with soy and isoflavones and hormones and estrogen, but we know definitively that soy is not a problem with your hormones. If anything, there's some research that shows that soy can actually help your hormones in a very positive way, reduce your chance of many cancers. It's heart healthy. So soy is fantastic, and also in its whole form whenever possible. We had sushi last night. I had edamame. I'm feeling great. I don't feel like I'm growing breast tissue or my voice is getting higher since I had it. So
Growing prestige.
Yeah, I think we live at what I say, like we create first world problems.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So think about for the history of humanity, up to maybe in the last 70, 80 years, food shortage was an issue. We were dying because we didn't get enough food. We were dying of starvation. We were dying of malnutrition for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And now we're at a point for the first time where we have an overabundance of food. And our body is still wired to be prepared for starvation. And that's why we gorge and we overeat sometimes, because our body's designed to do it. Because historically, we have to eat when food's in front of us because we don't know when we're going to get food next. That's historically. But in present day, there's lots of food everywhere. But our body's still wired that way. And a lot of us kind of create first world health problems when in fact, it's not what we should be focusing on. And what's interesting is if you take a look at the lifestyle factors associated with mortality, right? What's the number one lifestyle factor associated with mortality? It's obesity. You're not obese because of gluten or soy. You're not obese because you cook food. You're not obese because of carbohydrates. But obesity is the number one. Number two is smoking. Number three is accidents. And number four is mental health and addiction. So gluten and soy have nothing to do with 95% of all-cause mortality. And of the other 5%, it also has nothing to do. So I think we put our focus on the wrong things. We're having the wrong conversations. We're complaining about the wrong foods. You know, a dye in a maraschino cherry to turn it red has nothing to do with why people are sick and dying, getting diabetes and heart disease and cancer. So I think, you know, we really have to simplify what we're worried about, what we should be eating, and the rest will take care of itself.
I love what you're saying, because everybody is so freaked out that you can't even touch anything in a supermarket anymore. Everything is going to give you cancer and everything is going to be like toxic. And I love that you're actually calming everyone down and be like, okay, chill, it's going to be fine. Just take care of your mental health first, which is actually causing a lot of problems, because those
which will cause you more mortality and morbidity than any food dye or any soy additive. I think, you know, we have family from Germany, and they grew up drinking Weiss beer and having Weiss sausages and all these things that, you know, potatoes with tons of grease or butter on them. And, you know, I'm always look at what they're eating, but they remind me that this is not how they eat every meal, and that they're not eating large portions of it. And, you know, everything's about moderation. And today we live in an attention economy. We live in an attention economy where we need to grab their attention. And if we say something sensationalized, like if you go for sushi and you have edamame, it's going to turn a man into a woman. People will click on that, right? They want to read about that. If I say, hey, everyone have a balance of whole vegetables and fruits and lean proteins, it's a boring story. Yeah. But that's the most important story.
That's so true. But now my question, if you train somebody and their goal is to actually lose weight in order to look fitter, to look better for the next movie, whatever it is, what would be your go on in terms of diets? Like, because you said our body is wired to overeat, because the body is like thinking, okay, we don't know when we're going to get food next. And that is why we are tending to eat more than we would actually need naturally. And so what would be your, is it like more of a mindset thing? Is there certain foods that help? What is your recommendation for clients like this?
I tell people to follow the path, PATH, and use your hand as a great indicator, right? So every meal you want to have a palmful of carbohydrates. So whole grains like rice, quinoa, oats, millet, amaranth, teff, barley, potatoes, sweet potatoes, fruits, legumes, beans or lentils, palmful. So in the word path, palmful of carbohydrates. A is for all the vegetables you want. T is for the mass of your thumb from the base to the tip of fat, healthy fat, avocados, nuts, seeds, olives. And H in the word path is hand, at least the mass of your hand of protein, chicken, fish, egg whites, tofu, at least the mass of your hand.
And that is
why
for
did I say
each meal?
Each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and at least a snack. Why did I say egg whites and not eggs? You know, whole food people are going to say, well, an egg is a whole food and eggs aren't bad for you. And you're right, they're not. But an egg is not a protein.
Mm.
An egg receives 70% of its calories or more from fat.
Yeah.
So an egg is a fat that has some protein. And if you want to get enough protein in a meal and you're only getting it from eggs, you're going to consume a massive amount of calories and a massive amount of saturated fat in order to do so. So when I have an omelet, I use 1 whole egg and 5 whites scrambled together. And if you don't have that option, I just keep it simple, scramble some egg whites.
Yeah.
And it allows you to have fat from other sources like avocado in the meal, just a little bit of olive oil, another healthier form of fat than just a yolk. Nothing wrong with yolks, but in order to get enough protein from eggs in a meal, you'd have to consume a lot of yolks.
Yeah. And the yolks are actually the calorie dense part of the egg.
Exactly.
So if your goal is weight loss, then you should take more of the egg white rather than the egg yolks.
Exactly. Yep.
I see. And so what are like, you know how there's like a misconception out there for people who have like, oh, I'm going to have a healthy snack because I'm on a diet. And then they would grab like the trail mix, which is like dried fruits and nuts. And it is healthy for sure, but it is very high in calories. Or like granolas, you know, like how granolas are kind of like processed, depends which brand you're taking, and lots of sugar in there. Again, depends on the brand, but it sounds like the typical, you know, social media healthy snack, but it actually leads to weight gain. What is your take on these? What do you think are like the biggest mistakes? And
It's funny, there's a board that I've got asked to join that's involved in public policy and works with the federal government. And they use terms like healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a call yesterday and I challenged them. I said, what does that mean, healthy? What does that mean, healthy? So you mentioned trail mix being healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Trail mix might be one of the most unhealthy things a human being could eat based on the following. It's one of the most calorically dense things a person could eat. Between the high sugar dried fruits, the nuts, you know, the oils and the sugars used to cook the trail mix. Some of them even put Smarties in there or M&Ms, you know, to really make them tropical and fun. The shredded coconut, which is just pure saturated fat, and it's cooked also in oils and sugars. And so when we think about what does the word healthy mean, healthy is a relative term. For me, the definition of healthy is something that helps you live the longest, most capable, pain-free life.
yes,
And
absolutely.
something that contributes to obesity, I wouldn't consider a healthy food, right? And so, a trail mix to me would be real fruits, not the dried fruits. It would be less nuts. It might be a mixture of maybe some roasted chickpeas or roasted lentils in there. There's ways to make it a healthier food. Maybe it's not going to be roasted with oils and sweetened with sugars. And so, where you're from, they use muesli, a lot more popular than granola. And muesli is
yes.
significantly, and I'll use the word healthier, because it's not as delicious at all. I mean, not even a little bit as delicious as granola. But
well,
granola is dessert.
Depends. There are some good mueslis in Germany.
And the ones that are more delicious probably aren't as nutritiously sound for you. They probably have some extra things in there to add more fats and sugars. So I think for the most part, granola tends to have a crunchier consistency.
Yeah.
And there's a frying thing happening in the oven with oils, right? These grains are frying themselves in the oils in the oven and they're sweetened. Muesli can be a healthier choice. But I think anytime you have a food closer to its natural state, the better. I don't think an egg raw is healthier for you than an egg cooked. So when I say natural state, I just mean less processed and broken down into smaller elements.
Yes, exactly. I agree. Well, it's funny you saying that with the egg raw and because there's so much going on Instagram and social media in general where people would be like, I'm having this raw animal diet. So they would have this egg cracking up in their mouth and having a raw egg for breakfast, which is kind of like interesting, I wouldn't say I haven't tried it, but I could think this is a little bit disgusting.
Have you ever had food poisoning?
Thanks God I did not ever get in touch with this. No. But I think
I've had food poisoning a few times.
Oh my God.
twice from bad eggs in restaurants. And I have to tell you, if you've had salmonella or campylobacter, it's a terrible thing. People die from food poisoning every year. People die from foodborne illnesses every year. And so the idea that you would have raw eggs, you'll meet people who say, I've been doing raw eggs my whole life and I'm fine. That's great. An N of 1 does not make a scientific fact. And there's people that drink raw milk and do fine. At the same time, a lot of people die from raw milk. Not a lot of people drink raw milk, but a lot of people who do get very sick. And so there's a reason why Louis Pasteur invented pasteurization to kill the foodborne illness that a lot of people were literally dying from before milk was pasteurized. And the argument that pasteurization kills the nutrients and kills the taste, maybe they're right. Maybe there is a 5% reduction in nutrient quality, but certainly not a 50% reduction in nutrient quality. And maybe raw milk tastes sweeter. Maybe that's true. But pasteurized milk is safe. Pasteurized milk is incredibly nutritiously dense. And I'm willing to trade off a 5% less nutritional beverage for something that won't have me vomiting, doubling over, and being sick.
Yeah, potentially even kill you. I mean, so that's I've heard crazy stories about raw milk, even a mother losing the child in her stomach. Like it's serious. Yeah, no, absolutely.
And there's Americans always like to say, well, in Europe they don't do this, and in Europe they don't do that. And so as a European, and I'm not from the United States either, that argument doesn't work on you and I, because you and I grew up drinking pasteurized milk. You and I grew up cooking our eggs. And so there's a lot of things that they claim outside the US they do differently, but in fact, no, it's not different. It's the same.
What I think that is really true is about the difference between US and Europe is things move a little bit slower in Europe. People are more relaxed, and the mental health is just better in Europe. In general, overall speaking, now you can't say a specific country, but in general, I feel like the US is a lot of media. In every room you come in, there's a TV blasting with information. If you, I'm in New York City right now, and it's crazy. You go in the street, there is 10 things happening at the same time that my brain has to process. In Europe, I open the door and I go to the street. There's a bird flying by, and that's it.
Right.
And now, of course, and even if I compare the big cities in Europe, like Paris, for example, it's a huge city. Everybody comes there. There's no noise. It's quiet at night. I could sleep with the window open, that I couldn't believe it. While in New York, this is impossible. And I think that is the biggest difference.
New York is a tough thing to compare to places. New York is its own thing. I mean, I lived in New York briefly, and you're seeing so much stuff in front of you. You don't know. Do you look at the homeless person who's wearing a pink jumpsuit and playing with knives, or do you look at the person who's performing on the side of the road, or do you look at the big screen up in Times Square showing the news, or do you look? There's just too much to look at. But then when you go to places like Tokyo, there's even more to look at, and New York seems like a quiet place, and you go to places like Shanghai, and New York feels tiny. Yeah. So I think you're right, definitely in the West, but I think stimulation is a big city thing. And you can find that a lot of places. You're from a relatively smaller place, right?
Small place, countryside, the opposite of New York, I would say. Definitely.
And if you're in small town Alabama here in the United States, or small town in Texas, I think you can find that calm as well. Yeah. But where I'm from in Canada, Toronto's got a lot going on. But you go 30 minutes outside of Toronto into the countryside where the fresh lakes are, you can find some peace as well.
That's true, but I was also referring to the culture itself, that Americans tend to have the TVs on. A lot of households have 2 TVs next to each other to watch different shows, sports, and it is a lot of in general, I would say the culture in the US moves faster, moves quicker. Yes. There's a lot of pressure to present, to be somebody, while I feel like there's in general there is a little bit more of a calmer energy in Europe. Maybe that would describe what I'm
I think there's a
talking
joie
about.
de vivre that Europe has. There's a passion for life. There's a passion for food. There's a passion for art, for culture, for history. I think the United States is such a young country relatively that maybe doesn't have quite the same history and tradition and culture. Wonderful history, tradition, and culture, but you go back thousands and thousands of years in Europe, and I think there definitely is an emphasis on beauty, on taking a moment, and on quality of life that we could use a little bit more in the United States.
On the other hand, in the United States is where you can grow your business much faster because of that
Yes.
fast-moving pace. So it's like
That's right.
a take is a give, and yeah. Well, talking about you as a fitness coach, celebrity coach, you have trained very famous people in the past and currently, and very impressive. My question is there a difference between the workout that you would give to a woman versus the men? Is there like a significant that you would say, yeah, women should more focus on that, while men should more focus on other things? Or
That's a great question. I think it depends on the man, depends on the woman.
Mhm.
I think men and women are more similar than we think.
Mhm.
The idea that women shouldn't use weights because they're scared to get big, and men should use big weights because they're men. I think that's dated. It wasn't until the 1980s that women were allowed to run a marathon in the Olympics,
Mhm.
which is crazy to think, because women just weren't allowed because they were told it would be bad for their reproductive system. That was never a scientific fact. It just was this idea. And so I train men and women very similarly with some differences. Women tend to have wider hips and narrower shoulders, and men the opposite. So there's a few things I take into consideration. Men, I train pecs. Women, I don't generally train pecs. The last thing that I want to see my women clients do is to have them more forward. I actually want them to pull their shoulders back. Men as well, but I have women do a lot more hip work than men. From an aesthetic perspective, more inner thigh, outer thigh, abductor work. I have men do abductor work as well and glute work as well, but certainly women a little bit more. But I train them both in a very similar way. I train them intensely, and I use different weights: low weights, high weights, medium weights, reps, high, low, medium. Intensity is being really important, focusing on their posterior chain, pulling their hips back, shoulders back, arms back. The one thing I have in common is I hardly do biceps ever with male or females. That's just one thing we don't, because I feel it's such a small muscle. And a strong biceps, bend your elbow and pull your shoulder forward. And I'm trying to lengthen your elbow straighter and pull your shoulders back. And you get enough biceps indirectly from doing lats, pull downs, pull ups, rhomboids, rowing motions, that I don't think they need to be addressed a third time in a cycle.
I see. So big biceps are actually giving you this forward leaning position, while when you have more like a stronger back muscle, I would say. And in general, then what is the ratio? Does the back muscle needs to be stronger than the biceps in order to be naturally more upright, or is there any?
The opposite of the bicep is the tricep, the back of the arm.
Yeah.
And so the tricep straightens the arm out, right? So if the bicep bends it, the tricep straightens your arm. So I want your arm, a lot of people walk around with bent elbows, right? We don't want that. We don't want to look like a gorilla. We want the arm straight and rolled back. And so that's mainly tricep, and also rhomboids, which is the muscles between the shoulder blades, which pull your shoulder blades back.
Yeah.
And overall focus on the posterior chain, I can really help posture throughout your whole body.
I see. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
And there's also, this gender specific approach to fitness using Pilates and yoga for women, strength training for men, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Pilates is helpful. Joseph Pilates, he was a physical therapist, and it was a way to help injuries. It was a form of rehab. It was never a form of transforming the way your body looks.
Yeah.
And after World War II, the Russians adopted a lot of the practices of the Germans in medicine and in sports training. And so you had a lot of ballerinas doing Pilates, not to change their bodies, but as a form of rehab from hurting themselves from ballet. And there was a Pilates studio, I think in New York, and you had a guy who owned an infomercial company in the early 90s who saw all these ballerinas with beautiful bodies doing Pilates, and he goes, I can market that. I can't market ballet, but I can market that. And he did an infomercial that was massive in the US that really helped launch Pilates as we see it today, because it was soft and easy and long and light and flowing, and women identified with that. But I always say that Pilates is like washing your car with a toothbrush. So you can get into the little tiny cracks better than a lot of other forms of exercise. But in order to really clean your car, it would take you 10 times as long.
I see. But when you speak about Pilates, are you meaning the one with the reformer, or are you speaking about the mat Pilates, or which exactly?
Same. This
Same.
idea, both of them are very low resistance.
Yeah.
Both of them are lots of repetitions, a lot of time under tension. And they're very slow. So neither one of them are explosive. Neither one of them are against high resistance. They're very low resistance, very slow, lots of repetitions. And I would say that's like trying to strengthen your shoulder by brushing your teeth. So if you do this 100 times, you'll feel a burn here. It doesn't mean that's the fastest way to strengthen your arm.
Yeah.
There are faster ways of doing it.
Well, I do every day kind of like my own Pilates, I would call it. It's like my workout, but I would do similar exercises of a typical Pilates because I don't really use a lot of weight. I use a lot of my own body weight. And I would say my workout is maybe very so-called girly, a lot of more repetition, but I do it every day just to keep fit. Like I don't have a specific
How do you
goal.
work your upper back?
My
The
upper
muscles that pull
back.
your shoulders back. Yes.
I'm doing the exercise where I'm laying on my stomach on the floor, and then I lift both legs and arms so like straight up, and then pull them together. But I'm not using any extra weight.
So that's not rhomboids because you're not doing scapular retraction. Your shoulder blades aren't pulling back in and back away from each other against resistance. And this motion here is lats, but you're not doing lats against resistance. So if anything, that movement is a lower back move with a little bit of shoulder mobility.
Oh, see, there you're teaching me.
So another thing would be, how are you really hitting your hamstrings, the back of your thighs?
Well, with the back of my thighs, I wouldn't know. I don't really
It's
exercise
difficult.
those. Yeah.
So what I'm
mean-
saying is you end up with a lot of muscle imbalances because without equipment or intensity, it's difficult to train certain body parts.
Yeah.
So you're probably not getting your lats, your rhomboids, your hamstrings, glutes are tough. And there's something called the muscle size velocity relationship. In our body, we have small muscles and big muscles. So the muscles in our wrist and the muscles in our rotator cuff, and we have little small muscles in our hip. And those are engaged at low resistance and slow velocity, right? So small Pilates-like movements. But the larger muscles of our body, so our glutes, our rhomboids, our upper back, our hamstrings, those are engaged at higher velocities, so more explosively, and higher resistance. So take a look at the legs of an Olympic sprinter. Look at the butt of an Olympic sprinter.
Yeah.
They have the most perfectly shaped, strong butt, right?
Yeah.
That's from sprinting. That's from exploding.
Yeah.
So they're very explosive in their contractions. So they're hitting those type 1 fibers. And their type 2 fibers. And their body weight. They're carrying their body weight, which is a high resistance. They're lifting their own body weight.
Absolutely.
Look at the back of an Olympic rower, like explosive with their oars as they pull the paddles back.
Yeah.
Strong upper back, right? They're really exploding in, so high velocity, and they're pulling through the water, which is high resistance.
Yeah.
So it's important you have high velocity and high resistance to really keep those posterior muscles strong. And as we age, we lose muscle mass. That's the definition really of functional aging, if you are unable to maintain muscle mass through later years. And so by training with a higher velocity and higher resistance for a lot of muscles, you're really able to fend off aging and keep your body tight, toned, and strong. Whereas your abdominals, those are smaller muscle fibers. Those are oxidative fibers. Those respond well to a low velocity and low resistance. So Pilates is great for core.
Yeah.
Pilates is fantastic for core, better than almost any other form of exercise, but it's lousy for butt, hamstrings, upper back, and a lot of those really important muscles.
Good that you remind me of that, because time for me to hit some of the machines again.
Yes. Come to Los Angeles for a week.
Yeah, you're gonna train me.
Absolutely.
That would be great. Yeah, so you are also designing gyms, which
Yep.
is very, very interesting. I've seen you do like some for the Four Seasons and the Ritz-Carlton. You can tell maybe a little bit what you've
Yeah,
done.
we're working on the
And-
Amman, one of the Amman's biggest properties in the world right now. We're
Oh
doing Four
wait, where
Seasons.
is
We're
that?
doing,
Which Oman are you?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but
Oh.
it's
I see. Okay.
there's 5 gyms in this one property. It's going to be spectacular.
Whenever that comes
Um,
out, I have to visit it.
Yes, but we just finished installing a new Four Seasons Discoveryland collaboration in Naples, Florida. We did a walkthrough a couple days ago.
Mhm.
I mean, it's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, hotel gym in the world. It's absolutely stupendous. It's spectacular.
Wow.
For anyone looking to go to Florida on the beautiful beaches and water there on Naples, away from the loud party of Miami. The Four Seasons in Naples is spectacular. So we design a lot of great gyms. That's actually taken over probably 70% of my time.
Mhm.
I grew up golfing, and I remember reading how Jack Nicklaus, probably the most famous golfer of all time, became the largest golf course designer in the world. And this really resonated with me because as an enthusiast of fitness and exercise, there's nothing sadder than going to a hotel and their gym's in a basement with no lighting and low ceilings, and it's got crappy equipment. And I remember going to Munich in the Bauschofen.
Bayerischer. Yes, the gym is not particularly.
And this was a long time ago, and it's got such a beautiful hotel, and it's such a great location. And I feel like for a long time that was an afterthought, and now people are realizing that people will actually search out a hotel with an amazing fitness amenity as the reason to stay there.
Absolutely.
And they'll avoid an incredible hotel with great service and beautiful design if it doesn't have great fitness. So it used to sort of be a bonus. Now it's a feature of a hotel. And so we do a lot of high-end residential, ultra high-end residential. We do a lot in the Middle East. We just did a really interesting property where I had a set of marble dumbbell rack created for this, where everything was marble. It was spectacular. We did another one where everything was gold. Everything was wood paneling, just organic and beautiful. And so that's become a passion of mine. I believe we are now the largest hospitality fitness design firm in the globe.
Wow.
And it's a lot of fun. So if anyone out there needs a state-of-the-art fitness facility or just a beautiful one designed for their home, hotel, multifamily, country club, we're
Absolutely. That's so amazing. And yeah, you're saying something so important, because I go to those hotels and I get so disappointed when the gym is ugly. And if the gym was great, I would love to come back. Actually, no matter if the food was good or bad, the gym is more important than if they have this, because so many hotels would like focus on, I would say, the wrong things. And the gym is actually something so important for anyone who is doing regular fitness, regular exercise. And I start my day in the gym. So if I have a bad start in an ugly gym, like, no, so it's very, very important. When you design a gym, what is it that you look for? Because I get crisis if the gym doesn't have full daylight. When I start my day, I want natural light coming into the gym. And that's something super important for me, but maybe that's just my personal taste. But what is like something that you would like look out for? What are like the main things? I could hear you already also not liking it in the basement, so maybe it's something similar. But is there any maybe feng shui, something that you use?
I think the space, before you even talk about what's in the space is important. I've been in basements where I forgot I was in a basement because the ceilings were high. High ceilings change a lot.
Yeah.
Where the lighting was great, where it was a large space. And if that's the case, I can handle a basement. On the other hand, I've been to gyms on the Park Hyatt in Shinjuku, Tokyo, the Lost in Translation Hotel. I remember I was so excited to go there. And it was up at the top and it had the most spectacular views. But the equipment was weird. And the air quality was bad because there was an indoor swimming pool and you're kind of breathing in the pool fumes of the chlorine, and it was too humid. So I think number one is the space itself. I don't like low ceilings. There's a lot of exercises you can't do. There's nothing worse than reaching up and hitting your hand against the ceiling. I think natural light is great when you can get it. I think air quality is important. So if my office here in LA, almost all the walls in the gym slide open. So it's all indoor, outdoor.
Nice.
So there's fresh air all the time. Air conditioning is good. Too much air conditioning is not good. I think a right selection of equipment that addresses all the people that are there. Too often gyms are too masculine. They'll have 3 chest machines and no inner thigh or hamstring machines.
Yeah.
I think when something's a single branded gym, you know, they'll pick up the phone and, for example, they'll call Techno Gym and say, just do the whole gym. And, you know, Techno makes a few good pieces, but a lot of bad pieces. And so I don't think any one company makes great stuff from A to Z. So picking what company makes the best treadmill, what company makes the best leg
I love
machine,
that.
what company makes the best. And so best in class, pick the best from each and make that product really beautiful, right?
Yeah,
So
I love that.
I think those are the things I look for. Flooring. When we design a fitness space, sometimes we use 5 or 6 different flooring solutions.
Yeah.
Different flooring under free weights so that you can drop a weight and it doesn't make a noise. Different ones under cardio so it's not porous and absorbs sweat and smells bad. So things like that.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, I think there are some kind of machines in from different brands where I would be like, oh my God, this was the best. Like, I love doing that exercise. And then I would use the same machine in a different gym and I would just be like, oh my God, I hate that exercise. And it's just maybe the difference of the machine, or I can feel it on the treadmills a lot, which treadmill makes you feel like you're flying over it and it's bouncy and I don't know. And some others you're like, you feel like it's so hard and it's just not, it doesn't give you the flow.
And I think it goes even before that. It's wearing the right shoes can inspire you to be more active. You know, it starts with your feet. And so if you're wearing something that you're okay walking in, maybe instead of Ubering or driving from your place to dinner, you think, oh, look, it's a 25-minute walk. You know what? Instead of me going to the gym today, I'm going to walk to dinner and I'm going to walk back. I'm going to take my time. And like you said, like a European, I'm going to check out sights and sounds and be in the moment. And so, you know, and your outfit, if you're wearing skinny, tight jeans, walking might not be easy. Taking the stairs might not be easy.
Yeah.
So, you know, I partner with Viore and no matter where I go, I'm always super comfortable and I'm ready to do whatever.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, no, comfortable clothes is like so important. Sadly, for women, walking to the dinner is often not really an option because we tend to wear heels or something.
Exactly.
And that's not good for your feet to walk too long in those.
Exactly.
Even though, and it hurts. So, but I love going for a walk and I love having good shoes. What is your take on shoes? Like, what brand is like, what do you recommend?
You know, it keeps changing for me. I find a shoe I love and then I worked with New Balance for about 14 years. Love them, great people. They make some great shoes. Asics, I really like Asics. I'm wearing a pair right now. I don't like wearing running shoes. I find running shoes today more than ever are too hyper engineered. The soles are too thick, too cushy. You kind of, your ankle wobbles back and forth. You can't feel the ground. You don't know where you're pushing off of. I tend to wear a court shoe, kind of a lifestyle, old school tennis shoe, closer to the ground, a flatter sole. I think lately someone got me a few pairs of Salomon. I love the styling of Salomons. Not to work out in, but just more of a lifestyle shoe. There's so many great shoes out there. You really have to get what works for you. Everyone's foot is different.
Yeah.
And remember that if you have a running shoe you like to run in, that's not the shoe you should be working out in, because you don't wear golf shoes to play tennis and you don't wear tennis shoes to play golf. You shouldn't wear running shoes to work out or workout shoes to run.
I see. Yeah. Well, unless you don't I usually do wear my running shoes, but my running shoes are also not the kind of like, they don't have that extreme cushion and they are no more normal, like they're completely normal Adidas. But with those ones, I would also work out. But my workout is not.
But even then, a running shoe, even if it's not a big one, is only designed to go forward and back.
Yeah.
So there's no lateral support.
I
So
see.
if you like Adidas, try the Sambas, because the Adidas Sambas are the best. They're such a great workout shoe. It's very low, close to the ground. you feel your foot push off, whether it be a lunge, a deadlift, a squat.
Yeah.
Those are fantastic if you like
I
Adidas.
see. Gonna order them.
Yeah.
When you design gyms, is it that you recommend people to go to the sauna afterwards? What about like those hyperoxygen chambers? Like, I don't know, is that what of those things work? Do you think those are good? The infrared lights. There's so much that came in the last years that I don't even know anymore what's my take on these. Do I go on these? Are they not studied yet? I'm like,
Do you like cake for your birthday?
Of course, there must be a cake.
And when you get a cake for your birthday, do you like when they decorate the top of it? Maybe they put little plastic flowers or a little figurine or balloons or something pretty on the cake?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Everybody loves it, right?
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
I feel like people are more worried about the design on top of the cake than the cake. And that's the way I like to think about people's health. They're not worried about a good sleep, hitting their steps every day, making good food choices every day, strength training, balancing lifestyle, stress, spending time with friends, family, laughing. I think laughing is such an important part.
Oh my God, yeah. Laughing heals you so much. And love.
And love. And I think they're going straight to infrared saunas, plunging, hyperbaric chambers, sensory deprivation pods. And it's not to say that these things aren't good. And it's not to say that these things couldn't be helpful for some people sometimes. But I really only want you to think about these things when the other things are optimized.
Yeah, it's like the cherry on the pie that you could do, but it's definitely not the pie.
Exactly.
I see.
Last year there was a viral video going around of someone doing an online interview for I think it was on CNN, and the guy speaking was wearing a suit, jacket, tie, and he didn't realize the camera was on, and he got up and he was wearing no pants. And I kind of said, like, that's a great example of most people's approach to health. On quick glance, it looks like they're doing everything right, but the second they stand up, you realize, wait a minute, shouldn't pants be the first thing you put on in the day? And so I shouldn't you just worry about the sleep and and movement and balance and food, and then and only then you want to talk about these tertiary modalities. There's very little research that infrared sauna does much that's going to move the needle for your health.
Yeah.
But much like Pilates, compared to strength training, it's less intense than a real sauna. It's not as hot as a real sauna.
Yeah.
And so it's bright and it's warm, not hot. And so you're more likely to go in it and be in it longer. But most of the research on sauna benefits tend to be in a traditional sauna.
Yeah, and it has to be actually really hot in order to
plunging, cold exposure. There's very little research that there's physical benefits for you, but there's a lot of research that there's mental benefits for you. Yeah. And if you're having depression or anxiety, whatever negative thoughts you have, when you get into that 4-degree Celsius water, for those watching who don't know Celsius, that's almost freezing. You're not thinking those negative thoughts anymore. You're thinking, oh, this is cold. Oh, this is cold. Oh, this is cold. And then when you get out, you feel a sense of happiness and peace.
Yeah, a relief.
That you didn't have before, right? And gratefulness that you're out of the cold. So I think that's helpful. I think as far as hyperbaric chambers go, there's some research showing that they can help with wound healing. I know in the Canadian Medical Association, they use hyperbaric chambers for some people after surgery to help them heal.
Yeah.
As far as will it help the average person? I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to achieve. If they're training to be in a mountain at high altitude and ski, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I think we're starting to be at the end of our time here. Is there anything else that you would like to add on, or maybe where people can find you? Obviously, I follow you on Instagram. I love following you on Instagram, by the way.
Thank you.
It's fun.
Where are most of your followers? What city or country?
And most of them are now from the US. Since I am
Okay.
here, I gained a lot of followers from the US, but still from Germany apart, definitely as well. And then
So for all the
it's all
German
over.
people listening, my first big successful book was called Schlank mit Faktor 5. And,
Schlank mit Faktor 5.
And then I
Love
wrote a
it.
book called Fünf Factor Diät and then Welt Diät. And my first 3 books were #1 sellers in Germany. And so for all the German people out there, thank you very much for listening to Common Sense and it appealing to you. And my time there was really wonderful, and I met some great people. And to all my fellow Americans, I think this is a very tough time when it comes to health.
Yeah.
Because health is something that's become politicized. And, depending on your political views, that somehow is now affecting your health views. And it separates us and make us argue with each other about what's healthy and what's not healthy and what we should be eating, what we shouldn't be eating or drinking or consuming. And I think it's more important than ever to get your health information from the original source. Social media is not a great place to get health information. YouTube is not a good place to get health information. I know the average person has trouble sourcing original information. I'm not saying that ChatGPT and the AI things are perfect, but they're certainly better than listening to someone give their opinion on social media. So you can ask questions to there. If you were to ask, for example, are seed oils bad for you, to any open evidence ChatGPT, it'll come out that no, there has never been research in the history of science that seed oils are bad for you. There is research that shows that some unhealthy foods, like hyper-processed packaged snack foods like potato chips and stuff like that, has seed oils. And those hyper-processed foods are not good for you, but not because of the seed oils. And so this is not political. And I have no horse in the race. I'm grateful to be in the United States. I love everyone.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important we get our information from primary sources and not people's opinions. Most of the people giving out information on social media today do not have training or education in the field that they're giving you. Just because someone's a medical doctor doesn't mean they have any training in the field of nutrition. Actually, they don't, or exercise science.
Yeah.
And so I would, as much as possible, don't listen to people, listen to science from primary sources. PubMed, PubMed, PubMed.com is the National Library of Medicine database. Go find the information yourself. Make your own choices. And I love everybody, left, right, center. We're all great, and we all deserve to live a long, healthy life.
Yes, I love your take on the diet and exercise and everything. Just to don't stress too much about it. Like, do whatever is right in moderation, and that is actually what's going to give you a long and healthy life. And I love that example with the birthday cake.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, everyone, make sure the sponge is delicious. Make sure the icing's great before you worry about the little clown you're going to put on top with the candle.
Just make sure you get enough sleep and the actual essentials.
Exactly.
I love it. Yes, thank you so much for taking your time for this. And
Thank
I
you.
could learn a lot from this interview, and a lot of people will when listening to it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Health Hacks. I hope today's episode gave you more knowledge to improve your health.